أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we're going to start today with a surah of the Quran. What do you think we should start with? We did Surah Al-Nas yesterday. Shall we do Surah Al-Falaq? Let's go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق الرسول الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We're now going to recite a marthiyah, and then again I will go by what you have asked me to. So the requests I've also had are for the cries of the children, which is marthiyah number 7, and it's on page 9. Do you want to recite it with me? Let's go. I hear the cries of the children of Hussein. It rings in my ears. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the children of Hussein. Weren't there any Muslims in the army of Yazid? Were there no fathers who had a human heart? On the burning sand, the children of Hussein cried out. On the burning sand, the children of Hussein cried out. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. I hear the cries of the children of Hussein. It rings in my ears. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the children of Hussein. Little Asghar lay so still in his cradle. His mama looked on, feeling helpless. Oh, Furat, can't you spare some water for my son? Oh, Furat, can't you spare some water for my son? Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing him. I hear the cries of the children of Hussein. It rings in my ears. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the children of Hussein. Sakina looked to her uncle Abbas. He went to Furat to get some water. They cut off his arms, they pierced the water bag. They cut off his arms, they pierced the water bag. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing her. I hear the cries of the children of Hussein. It rings in my ears. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is killing us. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the children of Hussein. Have a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraja. Right, so we're going to go back to Surah Yusuf. And you remember I told you, we're going to remember those 5 words from Ayah 3. Nahnu naqussu alayka ahsan al-qasas. We tell you the best of stories. And qasas was a generational story told from generation to generation to generation with a lot of stories. Now we started off with the dream of Prophet Yusuf. Do you remember the dream? What was in the dream? That's right, 11 stars and a sun and a moon. Then we saw how his brothers put him in the well. Well, it was a jub, remember? That the hole where the water runs into the river and there's a little bit of a ledge. Then we saw how he was pulled out by this caravan who kidnapped him. They gave him clothes and food and drink, but they kidnapped him and they sold him as a slave. And they sold him to the Aziz of Egypt, the most important man in Egypt. He was like the minister of agriculture and distribution. And we remember that one. And he was wrongly accused and put into prison. Then on day 4, we looked at the dream of those who were in prison with him, the baker and the juice maker, right? And we saw how he told them what their dreams meant. And then yesterday, we saw how he told the meaning of the king's dream, and the king makes him the minister of agriculture and distribution. And the king gives him his ring and his goblet. Remember, the drinking cup. It was called a goblet. Okay, so his ring and goblet, which means he was a very important person. His name was cleared. He told them there will be 7 years of, that's right, harvest. They'll have lots of food, and then 7 years of drought. Now, in the 7 years of harvest, he built all these big stores where he kept all the dried wheat. Now comes the days of famine, the days of drought. And you remember when we stopped yesterday, I said that Yaqub told his 10 sons that I hear that in Egypt there is this man, this righteous man. And if you go to him, he will give us the food and we can exchange it for what we have here. So now let's look at what the story said. So Yaqub sends his 10 sons to Egypt. And with them, he sends frankincense. Do you know what frankincense is? They had frankincense over there. So frankincense is it's like the sap of a tree, right? So it's an amazing thing, and we'll talk about it when we come to it. It's called the olibanum. Let me just maybe better talk about it now. Called the olibanum, and it's the resin of the boswellia tree. And it grows in the Middle East, in India. It's a woody, spicy thing. It's really good because apparently it cures asthma, arthritis. It's good for if you've got ulcers in your mouth. It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps your stomach. It's an amazing spice. And at that time, frankincense was very, very important. So they took frankincense with them. So now they appear before Prophet Yusuf. They've traveled all this way from Canaan to Egypt. And they go to Egypt and they go before him. He immediately recognizing them. But they didn't. He knew who they were. They didn't know who he was. Because remember, they had seen him as a little boy of 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 maximum. And now he was this grown man in his pomp and glory. And he was the most important man in Egypt after the king. He told them, who are you? They said, we are the children of Yaqub, son of Ishaq, son of Ibrahim. That's the one whom Allah called Khalilullah. Look at the whole story they tell him. They said, Ibrahim was the one that Namrud put into the fire, and the fire became cool and peaceful for him. So Yusuf said, then according to you, you come from 3 prophets, but you don't look like you're wise. Are you spies? Are you spying on my country? They said, oh, Aziz, no. We're not spies or warriors. You know, if you knew our father, you'd really like him. For he's a prophet of God and it is a descendant of prophet. But he hasn't come because he's so sad. Yusuf said, and why is he sad? Why should he be sad? He's a prophet and a descendant of prophets. So he knows he's going to Jannah. And he has so many strong sons like you. Is he sad because you did something wrong to him? And they said, no. His sadness is because he had a son called Yusuf. And Yusuf was eaten up by a wolf. See, they're lying. They even believe their own lies. They said, well, he was eaten up by a wolf. And ever since then, our father has been sad and tearful. And Yusuf said, how many brothers are you? They said, well, we were 12, we're now 11. Then why are there only 10 of you here? Why did you keep one of you behind? And they said, well, that's Binyamin. He's the youngest and most beloved after Yusuf, and my father just wanted him to be there. Yusuf told his servants to look after them. He made sure that they got wheat for every one of them, including their father and Binyamin. And they paid with their frankincense. See, they had brought frankincense to barter. That was a sort of money then. You exchange things at that time. And he told them, next time, I cannot give you anything for you because you wouldn't bring your brother. So I'd like you to bring your brother next time. And Quran mentions all this. This is in ayah 60 of Surah Yusuf. In ayah 62, he tells his servants, he tells them, when you pack their bag, pack their frankincense in there as well. That means all their stuff that they brought, pack it in again. So when they returned to their father, they told him what had happened. And they said, next time we have to take Binyamin. And Prophet Yaqub said, can I possibly trust you any more than I trusted you with his brother Yusuf? But then he says, Fallahu khayrun hafidha. This is ayah number 64. But Allah is the best person to look after you. Wa huwa arhamur rahimin. And He's the most merciful. When they opened their bags, and this is all Quran, ayah 65, when they opened their bags, oh my goodness, the frankincense was returned. And now they really wanted to go back to Egypt. Before, at least, they thought, well, I don't know whether we will go or not, but now they really wanted to go. They said, oh, we can provide for our family, we can protect our brother, our little brother, we will take him, we promise we'll look after him, and we'll increase by a whole camel load because we'll get more food because he's there as well. Well, 6 months later, the food ran out and they decided to go again to Egypt, but this time with Binyamin. Prophet Yaqub said in ayah 66, make me a promise that you will bring him back to me unless you're completely surrounded. They promised. And they said, Allah is the one in whom trust is placed as regard to what we say. Now remember, they'd lied so much. It was so difficult for Prophet Yaqub to trust them. When you keep on lying and lying and lying and lying, the person in front of you may just say, yeah, okay, yes. The Prophet used to do that. When people used to lie to him, he used to say, oh, that's interesting. But he wouldn't say anything. That's what people do. They stop trusting you. Prophet Yaqub told them, don't enter through one gate. This is ayah 61. Go through different gates because you might arouse suspicion when 11 strong men enter one gate. You will attract unnecessary attention. So make sure you enter through different gates, a few of you at a time. And he said, I rely on Allah and in Him I trust. So they entered as their father told them. And they came before Yusuf. They're all standing there. All 11 brothers. Yusuf's eyes light up when he sees Binyamin. My goodness, this is his brother, like his real brother, the brother that was so close to him. He invited them to join him for a meal, and he kept different buffets, right? And he said, if your real brothers, like your mom and dad are the same, remember they had different moms, and he said, your mom and dad are the same, you sit on the tables where your mom and dad are the same, because they had one father, Yaqub, but there were different moms. Suddenly he saw that Binyamin was just standing. Why are you not sitting with your brothers? He said. He said, well, I had a brother from the same mom. Remember, their mom was called Rahil, and the English name is Rachel. And he said, but they claim, those brothers of mine claim, that he was eaten by a wolf, but I think they caused some mischief to separate him from mom and dad. Yusuf said, are you married? He said, yes. My father told me that I should get married because that'll distract me a little bit and keep me, thinking too much about my brother. And he said, have you any children? He said, yes, I have 3 sons. And I named each of them something to remind me of my brother Yusuf. I miss him so much. Yusuf said, sit with me. I want to replace the brother that you lost. He said, I couldn't ask for a better person to be my brother. But you're not the son of Yaqub and Rahil. Tears in his eyes, Prophet Yusuf said, I am in fact your brother, and I will protect you. Oh my goodness. He said, Inni akhuka, I am your brother. Fala tabta'is bima kanu ya'lamun. And don't worry about what they do. Don't be sad about it. I will always look after you. And they both hugged. They were so happy. Binyamin was really happy because he hated being harassed and teased by his older brothers. And he said, I will never leave you. Binyamin tells Yusuf, I will never leave you. So Prophet Yusuf says, well, we'll have to come up with a plan because I can only keep you here if I accuse you of something. And Binyamin says, do whatever you want, but I don't care. I don't want to leave you. So when they finished eating, Yusuf's workers told him that they were packing all the things and the brothers would be ready to go. And with his instructions, they took that goblet. Do you remember that goblet that the king gave him? And they put it into the youngest brother's pack, in Binyamin's pack. Yusuf said goodbye to them, and he sent them over and said, "Give my regards to your father." But just as they traveled a little bit, Yusuf's soldiers went and said, "We're missing the goblet of the king." Remember the ring and the goblet, ring and the drinking glass, but this was only the goblet. And the soldiers intercepted the brothers, and they said, "We've got to find this goblet. You're the only ones who've left town at the moment. We want to see whether it's in your bags." And Yusuf had told the soldiers, "Whoever brings me my goblet back will get a camel load of food." They searched the bags, and then they said, "Whoever's bag this is found in will stay here." And when they searched Binyamin's bag, obviously they found it. And then the brothers said to Yusuf, because they all went back, and he said, "I have to keep Binyamin here." And the brother said, "Well, if he has stolen," this is ayah 77, "a brother of his did indeed steal before." You see how they were. They said Yusuf stole before. Yusuf didn't say anything. He said to them, "Your current position now is worse than your two brothers." Now let me tell you the story of what happened. Prophet Yaqub had a sister called Sarah, and Sarah loved Yusuf when he was very little. And she wanted to keep Yusuf with her all the time. But Prophet Yaqub loved him and didn't want him to go to Sarah, or didn't want him to go anywhere. So Sarah had borrowed a belt from Prophet Yaqub, which belonged to their father. What she did one day when Yusuf came to visit her was she put the belt in between his clothes and sent him home. And she told Yaqub, "I will return the belt tomorrow." The next day she said, "The belt is missing. I suspect Yusuf has taken it." When they looked through his clothes, they found it. And she said, "Well, that proves that he took it." He hadn't taken it. And she said, "This means that he must stay with me like a slave until I say so." And the brothers had heard about that. And Prophet Yusuf knew this, but he didn't say anything. He just didn't. He knew this was being accused again of something that he didn't do. They begged Prophet Yusuf. They said, "Ya ayyuhal aziz, oh, the most important person in the land, inna lahu aban shaykhan kabiran, our father is so old, faqud ahadana makana, inna naraka min al muhsinin, let one of us take the place of Binyamin. We see you as a really good, a really righteous man." Yusuf said, "I can't keep anyone here except the one in whose bag the goblet was found." He didn't say the one who stole. See, he always told the truth. He never said that. Now one of the brothers called Reuben said, "I am not leaving because I promised Dad that I will not leave without Binyamin, and I will stay here until Allah decides for me, and He's the best of judges." So 9 of them go back. They leave Binyamin and Reuben behind. When they arrived home, they tried to explain to their dad, but there had been so many lies. They had just lied and lied and lied. And in desperation, they said, "Ask the people who live in the city where we went to. Ask those whom we traveled with. What happened? We are telling the truth." It's very hard to believe somebody who lies and lies and lies. In the end, you just have to say, "Yeah, okay, that's okay." But you know they're lying, and that's awful. So you know what? The Prophet was known as trustworthy, truthful, and compassionate. One of the greatest things in life, is to tell the truth. And telling the truth is not revolutionary. You don't have to remember what you said. Yaqub told them. He said, "Bal sawwalat lakum anfusakum amran." This is ayah 83. You have fooled yourself into doing something wrong. And then he said, "Fasabrun jameel." Patience and perseverance and relying on Allah is beautiful. He said, "Asallahu wa ya'tiyani bihim jamia." Maybe Allah will put all of us together again. "Innahu huwal alimul hakim." He is all-knowing and all-wise. And he turned away from them. And he kept on saying, "Waqala ya asafa ala Yusuf." How I grieve for Yusuf. I miss Yusuf so much. His dua was, "Ya Rabbi, have rahmah on me. You took my sight and my 2 sons." Because Quran says, وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ. His eyes became white. مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. From the sadness, and he became blind. He cried so much. But instead of his sons consoling him and being nice to him, they just got so angry. Ayah 85, they said, Tallah, by Allah, tafta'u tadhkuru Yusufa. All you do is think about Yusuf, Yusuf, Yusuf. Hatta takuna haradan, aw takuna min al-halikin. You will just make yourself ill and you will die. They just told him off more. When somebody comes to you and they're upset, you don't shout at them. You become softer. They didn't do that. And it's really important. It could be anybody. They come to you for any problem at all and they're upset. You don't shout at them and say, oh, I told you so. You shouldn't have done this. It's all your fault. No. You're supposed to be really, really kind to them. Look at Prophet Yusuf. Ayah 86. I love this ayah. It's my most favorite ayah of the Quran. He said, Qala innama ashku bathi wa huzni ilallah. I only complain of my sadness, and bathi is that sadness that eats you up inside. So it's not only fresh sadness, that sadness from past which is eating me up. وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And I know from Allah what you do not know. Now let's see what he knows from Allah that they did not know. First of all, he wanted to know whether Yusuf was alive. So he prays to see Malakul Maut. You know what Malakul Maut is? The angel of death, Israel. And he met him and he said, do you personally take people's souls or do you have helpers? And the angel says, I have helpers, but all the souls are presented to me. So he said, may I ask you in the name of the God of Ibrahim and Ishaq, I'm going to ask you. He said, has the soul of Yusuf been presented to you? And Israel said, no. Oh, Prophet Yaqub, my son is alive. And then look at the second thing. There was a person from Canaan who went to Egypt to get some food. When Prophet Yusuf found out that he was from Canaan, his eyes lit up. He said, on your way, when you come to such and such a valley, call out, oh Yaqub, oh Yaqub. And somebody, an honorable, handsome man will respond. And tell him, in Egypt, I met a man who sends his salams, and the trust that you gave Allah, that trust has never been forsaken. It's looked after. And the man did exactly that. He went to the valley and he went, Ya Yaqub, Ya Yaqub. And this blind, handsome, wonderful man came out. And the villager told him what Prophet Yusuf had told him. Prophet Yaqub fainted. When he came to, he told that man, is there anything you want? Have you any wish that you want? He said, I'm a wealthy man, but I don't have any children. I wish to have children. So Prophet Yaqub did wudu, prayed 2 rakats of namaz, asked with the wasila of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, and asked for him to have sons or children. He was blessed with 4 sons, and that is why in this ayah he says, I know what you do not know. So inshallah tomorrow we will continue with the story of Prophet Yusuf. But today we're going to go to Karbala. I'd like you to close your eyes and imagine. Imagine this wonderful young man. He was barely 11 or 12. On the night of Ashura, when Imam Hussein was reading out the names of all the soldiers for the next day who were going to fight, there was no name of Qasim. Qasim comes up and says, what about me? And Imam said, young man, how do you view death? He said, for me, to die for the truth is sweeter than honey. So the next morning, his mom says, her name was Ramla, Farwa. She go to your uncle and say you want to go fight. You want to be a soldier too. You want to fight for the truth. And his uncle says no, and Hussein says, no, I can't let you go. Your mom will be alone. So he sits outside the tent, and he plays with the strings, which was the tent, put down in the ground. His mom says, you haven't gone yet? Why are you sitting here? And he says, he won't let me. So his mom took out a letter and gave it to him and said, go give your uncle this letter. When Imam Hussein saw the letter, he cried. It was from his brother. And it says, Hussein, I will not be there in your time of need. Accept my Qasim from me. Just like Owen and Muhammad, Imam helps Qasim wear his armor. So Imam puts on his armor, gives him his sword, and he looks so little. But he was trained by Imam Hussein and Hazrat Abbas. When he goes to the battlefield, there is one called Azrak. It was called Azrak from Damascus, Azrak al-Shami. And he says, I will fight this man. He sends his 4 sons and he goes himself. And Qasim fights with them and he wins. Humayd ibn Muslim writes that there was one Amr bin Sa'ad Azri who said, I will attack this child. And he said, I told him, what has he done to you? When Qasim went again to the battlefield, he was surrounded. Amr bin Sa'ad Azdi raises his sword and hits him. Qasim holds on to the horse, but he falls. Imam runs and raises his sword at Azdi, who screams. When he screams, the horses get so scared. One side of horses run to the other side, and the other side go to the wrong side. There is so much commotion. When the dust settles, Qasim has been trampled by so many horses. Imam sees him on the ground. His toes are scratching the ground, and Imam says, Qasim, you called out for help, and I couldn't help you. He took him to the tents, laid him near his son Ali al-Akbar, put hands on both of them and said, Ya Rabb al-Alameen, Hussein has lost both his sons. There was another son of Imam Hassan there. When Imam Hussein was surrounded, this youngest son of Imam Hassan ran to him. And as someone tried to hit Imam, Khurmala hit this young son with an arrow, or fired an arrow to him. Imam held on to him and said, Bunayya, oh my son, we will meet your grandfather like this. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Saya'lamuna alladhina dhalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the name of Hazrat Qasim for all those who are ill, for all those who are suffering in the world. Let's pray for all the children of the world who are going through very, very difficult times, and ask Allah to give them safety and give them or rescue them from their predicaments, from their difficulties. Right, let's read a Noha and we will do Matam. Again, I guess this is the one that you've picked for today. Well, most of you have asked for The Desert is So Quiet. That is Noha number 12 on page 16. So with your right hand, will you do Matam with me, and let's recite it. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. I hear that they gave you an arrow when all you asked for was some water. Oh, Asghar, you were bathed in blood. Oh, Asghar, you were bathed in blood. The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. I only want to ask one question. To the waters of River Furat, couldn't you spare some water for my son? Couldn't you spare some water for my son? The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. Come, let me change your blood-soaked clothes. Let me cradle you in my arms. What did they do to my Mujahid? What did they do to my Mujahid? The night is so dark, don't be scared, Asghar. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The night is so dark, don't be scared أصغر. I see your radiant face, the thirst on your lips. I couldn't even give you any milk all my life. I'll never forget all my life. I'll never forget. The night is so dark. Don't be scared أصغر. The desert is so quiet. There's a deathly calm. The night is so dark. Don't be scared أصغر. O Muslims, when you see infants being killed and denied water, remember my asghar, go to their aid. Remember my asghar, go to their aid. The night is so dark, don't be scared asghar. The desert is so quiet, there's a deathly calm. The night is so dark, don't be scared أصغر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Let's recite the dua for protection and then the ziyarah for Baba Abdullah. لي خمسة أطفي بها حر الوباء الحاتمة، المصطفى والمرتضى وأبناهما والفاطمة. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. في أمان الله كريم. إن شاء الله I'll see you tomorrow.